Hey, everybody! I'm really excited. That probably was really too loud, but hello, everybody! I am so excited right now. Okay, let me try this again. I am really excited because I am about to launch several projects simultaneously, both art projects and business projects, and I know that the standard business advice says not to release different projects simultaneously, but they actually are all related, and at least two of these projects I've been working on for over a decade, so they are ready to be born. And so I'm going to finally launch artistandentrepreneur.com. I've owned that domain since 2003, and I remember back in the day when I was really scared that if I made a bunch of money first before I established myself as an artist, that artists wouldn't respect me as an artist. That was probably my biggest fear around that. And then there's all kinds of associated fears with becoming wealthy. You know, people will hate your guts, they'll think you're evil, etc., etc. We'll get into that. But basically, it's going to be sort of a channel where you see my multiple projects as I'm building my business as an artist and creative and entrepreneur, and you'll watch me succeed. That's the plan. Anyway, and let's see, I'm finally releasing How to Be a Bitch 101 version 3.0, which I'd originally created How to Be a Bitch 101 in 2005. I got some hate mail, I got some negative press. I was on Maximum Satellite Radio when satellite radio was new, on a men's show actually, and had publishers contacting me. It was really successful, all in about a month, and I always believed that had I just kept going, that I would be a multimillionaire by now. But I was really afraid. The anagram for bitch is being in total control of him or herself. I actually augmented it because back in the 90s there was a woman who created the course, or created a book called How to Be a Bitch with Style, and I believe she had a PhD, and she's probably like in her 70s or 80s or 90s now. I think she lives in Florida or something. Anyway, but I've augmented it, and this is the first course that is really gender neutral. It's really about autonomy, it's about responsibility, it's about accessing your own power. As Aldous Huxley says, or said, there's only one corner of the universe that you can control, and that is your own self. And that is the basis for this course. It's How to Be a Bitch 101 for girls and guys with automatic nice syndrome. So anyway, there's that. And then, and I've already sold that without marketing to people in Pakistan and Estonia and China and all over the world. I had released a couple versions of it a couple of years ago, as many of you might remember who are my Facebook friends, and I only told my Facebook friends, and that was about it. And then I just sort of started to hide out again and went into that automatic nice syndrome because I was terrified that if you searched the word bitch, you would come up with my name and all of the things like that. Anyway, and then now I also have these two new projects. One is called the Lovebirds interviews, which originally, it's very new, but it's changing quickly. And originally I was going to only interview married couples that had been together for a long time who were wildly in love still. And that very quickly changed to, okay, it doesn't really matter as long as people are in love. And then I started to realize that love and the creative state are so synonymous. And my interest is not necessarily in an end goal, but rather the state itself of being in love. And so I'm now actually thinking of changing it to be more inclusive. I'm going to do 100 interviews with people who are in the state of love. and that can be anyone who has like a project that they're just so, they have this like magnificent obsession, or they do some kind of philanthropy that brings them love, because I do want it to be a very inclusive project, and there are a lot of people that do remain single who are some of the most lovable people in the world. So yeah, so that's called the Lovebirds projects, or Lovebirds interviews. And then I have the Manfast Diaries. I am on my 125th day of my Manfast today, which is going to be 1 to 2 years, depending on everything, and what I need to do for myself. And one thing that I had noticed after the end of my marriage, which in a way really wasn't, if I could get that annulled, I would. It wasn't really a marriage. Well, I've read thousands and thousands and thousands of articles now on relationships, on male psychology, on how to bring more quality to your relationships, how to make love last, how body language, everything I could get my hands on. Sort of a non-scientific, but definitely like a comparative, in-depth analysis. And I think the best thing to do is just to study people who are actually in the state of love. Okay, so that's Lovebirds interviews, which is closely tied with the Manfast Diaries. And so the Manfast Diaries is also a podcast. And I'm thinking that it probably will become a book. And I have a partner in crime. Her name is Valerie Sloan, but technically she used to say, or she was saying, this is very new, it's only a couple of weeks old. She was saying that she was on a partial manfast while I was on a complete manfast, but actually she's on a manfast because she is completely dating and having a lot of fun. And it's a really great juxtaposition, because while I'm on a man-fast and she's kind of on a man-fast, like actively dating, we both have this kind of, well, we kind of turn into 12-year-olds when we get together. And I mean, we're like 12-year-old girls. I mean, we're just so excited about the idea of love and about everything working out and having our happy endings, and it's so incredibly fun. But for myself, I started it because I realized that I was the common denominator in all of my relationships, and that's the one thing that I can control. And also, I remember when I got married, I was kind of sad. I had to go through this because I was sure it would be for the rest of my life, and because that's what marriage means to me. And I remember mourning my singlehood and thinking, gosh, I sure wish I would have had a lot more fun, because I really had suffered. Being single back then was just a horrible experience. I was so alone, and all I wanted was to be married and be in love. And I still absolutely want those things, but I know that in order for it to work out the way that I would like it to work out, which is like a super high functioning level, that is beautiful and profound, I have some work that I need to do on myself, to prepare myself for being in that state and creating that state in the first place on a daily level, with or without someone. And also, you know, I need to fall in love with myself first and become the woman of my dreams if I'm going to expect someone else to do that. And also, I've been taking lots of different courses. I'm taking this great course that's for women called the Love Breakthrough course. It actually happened a few months ago, but I've just been very slowly working on that. One of the things that I've been really addressing is ancestral love programs, or love dialogues, or love patterns. Ancestral love patterns, I think, is Dr. Laura and Johnny Fernandez came up with that term, I believe. And that's been really profound, especially starting the Lovebird interviews series. I wasn't originally going to ask my parents to interview because, I don't know, it just didn't seem like they were really having a very good ending, like a happy ending. And things have really transformed the way that I see my life and my experience. I started interviewing my mom because I knew that she was going to pass away. And that was just like a month or two ago. And at that time, she had, over the last couple of years, begun to tell me how her and my stepdad, who I call dad, since I was 6, or since I was 7, how they met. And I was really surprised at their story, which I'll talk about more later. But by the time I recorded her, I believe I have a lot of like recorded archives that I'm still going through, but the last recordings I made, she was so tired and she was so physically drained that the life and the animation had kind of gone out of her voice most of the time when I called, and she barely wanted to talk on the phone. So it felt incredibly sad. And I was sort of relating to it like a negative template with which I was going to contrast the rest of the Lovebird interviews. But she died a couple of weeks ago, not even, not this Tuesday, but the last Tuesday. So it's been, she died on 2nd, and today is she died 11 days ago. 11 is this amazingly magic number. Anyway, yeah, so she died 11 days ago, and over the last month of her basically beginning to leave us, it's been nothing less than profound. I feel so humble, and when she passed, it was like, well, first of all, she had suffered for 5 years. She had COPD, and she died of cardiac arrest. And she had been in and out of comas for about 5 years. They were induced comas to make her more comfortable so they could raise her oxygen levels because she was a heavy smoker. And what am I trying to tell you? Meanwhile, I have this friend who is kind of obsessed with math, and he's making this film called The Sequence. Originally, it was called the Fibonacci Sequence, I believe, and now it's simply called The Sequence. And what am I trying to tell you? I feel like when she passed, suddenly all of these problems that my mind was so incredibly frustrated with and trying to figure out, which I still, those questions about why people suffer, why some people struggle and others prevail, no matter where they come from or what circumstances they have arrived into on this earth, that they meet with success. And that's like the main, for many of you who've known me for years, that's the main theme of Shut Up Dream Crusher. And it's also why it's taken so long, because some of my friends and family are like, oh, Shut Up Dream Crusher, yes, isn't that project over yet? No, it's not over yet. It is not over. It may be retitled, but it's not over, because it deals with the dialogues that either prevent people from doing what they want or propel them forward towards success. So it's not an easy project, to say the least. Gosh, I don't know what else to say except that when my mom passed, it felt like, almost like her body went like a tree or something, and then suddenly turned to ashes and went everywhere, like dispersed everything, like her ashes into the air. And it's like the mitochondria is everywhere. I see her everywhere, and suddenly I find myself thinking about the Fibonacci sequence, and I'm thinking, right, that's because one's life, we're like living tableaus. We are text in the making. We are these stories that are unraveling. I mean, and just physiologically, it's incredible when you think about the way that the brain is developed, the fact that there are systems within systems and organisms on our bodies, and then forest systems, and I don't know, this is, it's getting a bit long. We're at almost 16 minutes here, but yeah, I'm really excited. There are pages for every project. Lovebirds interviews is one word, Lovebird, the Lovebird interviews. Lovebirds, sorry. That's plural, but it's Lovebirds, it's one word. How to Be a Bitch 101, that's also a Facebook page. Artist and Entrepreneur is a Facebook page. And the Manfast Diaries is also a Facebook page. So depending on your interest, you can subscribe to different pages. Everything will be on my personal Facebook, as well as on artistandentrepreneur.com. Monday, I'm launching howtobeabitch101.com. Later in the week, artistandentrepreneur.com. The website will be up finally, and it's been a long process of synthesis, and then also the first podcasts for both the Lovebird interviews as well as the Manfast Diaries will be up and ready for listening. Thank you.